about the sacking of Constantinople and shit. Okay, so that's a separate motivator, but for the most part, in contemporary Western civilization, the hatred of Muslims is so prominent and so hard to reverse. You know, so hard to fucking so hard to speak clearly on. It's just difficult, boys. It's hard for, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like virtually impossible to help people recognize the humanity. Recognize the humanity of Muslims as a whole. So most people just look away or only hear one side of it, and that side favors the Israeli side. So that's it. That's why it's so fucking slanted on one end. Here.
This is the 35th year of a harsh, brutal, and vicious occupation, supported unilaterally by the United States, constant terror and atrocities.
Hold on.
Suppose Palestinians say, well, we're under terrorist attack for 35 years, therefore we have a right to carry out suicide bombings.
Which is what they say.
Do you accept this? Does anybody accept it?
Nobody accepts
All
it.
right, then how come everyone accepts the Israeli claim to be doing it, which is a much weaker claim? Because after all, there's no symmetry in this situation. They are the military occupiers. Palestine isn't occupying Israel. And this isn't just started now. It's gone on years ago. I mean...
So does that, in your mind, justify
no,
the
it
suicide
does not.
bomb?
Of course not.
It doesn't
in anybody's
So it
mind.
invalidates both sides.
Those who defend suicide bombing, and there are very few, don't have a leg to stand on. Those who defend the Israeli atrocities, including the U.S. government, most intellectual opinion, a good bit of the West generally, yeah, they don't have a leg to stand on either, and they have a much weaker position. For 35 years, there has been a harsh, brutal, miserable military occupation. There has not been a political settlement. The reason why there has not been a political settlement is that the United States unilaterally has blocked it for 25 years. Is it supported by the entire world, including the majority of the American people? The answer to that question is yes. There is a political settlement that has been supported by virtually the entire world, including the Arab states, the PLO, Europe, Eastern Europe, Canada.
Didn't Barack put that on the table?
No, he did not.
He did not.
It is also supported by the majority of the American people. It has just been reiterated by Saudi Arabia. The U.S. has unilaterally blocked it for 25 years. What Barack put on the table, the population doesn't know this because people like the Western media, the media in Canada and the United States don't tell them. Like, you can check and see how often you, for example, or others have reported what I just said. Don't bother checking. The answer is zero.
He's not talking about Barack Obama. He's talking about Ehud Barak, by the way, for the record. Jeffrey Epstein's personal best friend and old Israeli leader was literally caught, like, leaving Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion in secrecy. That's a separate point, but, you know, it's always a fun one to bring up. Yes, Ehud Barak, the then leader of Israel, was tight with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, so tight that, what was the year that he got caught? Like, A Small World, eh? Oh, yeah. Small World. When did he get caught with Jeffrey Epstein? Like, not like in... This wasn't, I mean, in 2019, he said, I wish I'd never met him after Jeffrey Epstein died. But this was in, like, 2012 or something. Like, married Israeli politician Ehud Barak is seen hiding his face entering Jeffrey Epstein's New York City townhouse. Wait. In 2019, there's no shot. What the fuck? No. The photographs were taken in 2016. 2016, dude. 20 fucking 16. Like, everybody knew Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile at that point. Like, literally, like, if you were to say, like, oh, this is before the first investigation and subsequent arrest and jailing of Jeffrey Epstein for the international sex trafficking of minors, this wasn't the first. This wasn't after the first. This is in 26 fucking teen, dude. Yeah. And you know he's wearing this shit. He's wearing this getup to hide himself. Like, he's like, I gotta go chill with my homie. I gotta go chill with my homie Jeffrey Epp, dude. Jeffy Epp. I mean, seriously, dude. Like, you know you're doing some fuck shit if you're trying to hide your face as you go to your famous fucking pedophile criminal friend's house, dude. Anyway.
Proposal in Camp David in the Barack Clinton proposal. In the United States, I didn't check the Canadian media. In the United States, you cannot find a map, which is the most important thing, of course. Check in Canada and see if you can find a map. You go to Israel, you can find a map. If you go to scholarly sources, you can find a map. Here's what you find when you look at a map. You find that this generous, magnanimous proposal guaranteed, provided Israel with a salient east of Jerusalem, including the city of Ma'ale Adumim, which was established primarily by the Labor government in Clinton in order to bisect the West Bank. That salient goes almost to Jericho, breaks the West Bank into 2 cantons. Then there's a second salient to the north, going to the Israeli settlement of Ariel, which bisects the northern part into 2 cantons. So we've got 3 cantons in the West Bank, virtually separated. All 3 of them are separated from a small area of East Jerusalem, which is the center of Palestinian commercial and cultural life and of communication. So you got 4 cantons, all separated from the west, from Gaza, so that's 5 cantons, all surrounded by Israeli settlements, infrastructure development, and so on, which also incidentally guarantee Israel control of.
Honestly, I don't think this is very relevant about Ehud Barak. The irony, okay, I'm going to read this. This is really important for you guys to understand as well. He might be a pedophile, but he hasn't been in government for a long time, and many Israelis dislike him. He's also a lot more sympathetic to the Palestinians and the current government. He's even said Israel is heading towards apartheid. So, what that guy's saying is right. Okay? Like, that guy, Ehud Barak, who many were critical at the time, many anti-Zionists were critical at the time, is now literally a fucking sympathetic figure to the, like, seen as a more sympathetic voice of the Palestinian plight, because especially under Netanyahu's leadership, Israel got significantly more brutal. Like, it's, and regardless, like, Ehud Barak, still not sympathetic. Don't get me fucking wrong. Like, leadership that we talk about, like, what's the dude's name? The one that got assassinated. Like, a former prime minister, like Yitzhak Rabin, like every single fucking Israeli leader thus far, including Rabin, who was genuinely, like, way more considered to be way more Palestinian friendly than the current leadership. Every single one of them still, like, literally committed purges. Okay. Like, this does not end up legitimizing their position. I'm just saying this so you understand, like, how much worse it got over time. Okay?
The water resources, the reason. Last comment. This does not rise to the level of South Africa 40 years ago, when South Africa established the Bantustans. That's the generous, magnanimous offer.
Okay.
And there's a good reason why maps weren't shown, because as soon as you look at the map, you see it.
All right. However, that's the characterization of it. But let me just say, Arafat didn't even bother putting a counter-proposal on the table.
No, that's not true.
They negotiated at
Totally
Taba
false.
afterwards.
That's not true.
But I guess my question is,
That's
if
not
they
true.
don't continue to
They did,
negotiate...
that's totally false. And,
that's false?
Not only is it false, but not a single participant in the meetings says it. That's a media fabrication.
That Arafat didn't put a
Yeah, they had a
counter-proposal on the
proposal.
table?
They had a proposal. They proposed the international consensus, which has been accepted by the entire world, the Arab states, the PLO, the majority of the American... Sorry. They proposed a settlement which is in accord with an overwhelming international consensus,
my question is, if
and
you
is
don't
blocked by the
talk-
United States.
The problem that people look at now, the Middle East, is they say it's spun out of control. How do you get back to...
First way we
How do we get back?
First way we get back is by trying the experiment of...
Which has been accepted by the entire world. Where is the entire world now? When he says the entire world, when Noam Chomsky says the entire world, he means the entire world with the exception of America, okay? So just remember that. Just like the entire world right now believes Israel's occupation of the West Bank to be illegal. That's true, because it is. It is literally illegal. That occupation in the West Bank, totally illegal. But it doesn't fucking matter, because America does not care and actually likes it. Do you understand? So when people say like the entire world feels this way, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter, because that's not what the United States' point of view is.
Of minimal honesty. Okay, let's try that experiment. If we try the experiment of minimal honesty, we look at our own position, and we discover what I just described, that for 25 years, the United States has blocked the political settlement, which is supported by the majority of the American population and by the entire world, except for Israel, virtually. I mean, there's some marginal exceptions. So the first thing we do is accept the honesty to look at that. We take a look at Camp David, and we see, yeah, it was the same. The United States was still demanding a Bantustan-style settlement and rejecting the overwhelming international consensus and the position of the American people. We then discover that the United States immediately moved to enhance terror in the region. So let's continue. On September 29th, Ehud Barak put a massive military presence outside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Very provocative. When people...
Oh, wait a minute. But this last round of conflict, wait, that's so strange. It almost feels like whenever Israel wants to piss the Palestinians off, they just put police and IDF soldiers outside of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Very interesting.
People came out of the mosque.
Is this interview from this year? No, this is from fucking 20 years ago, dude. He's talking about Ehud Barak, guys.
Young people started throwing stones. The Israeli army started shooting. Half a dozen people were killed, and it escalated. The next couple of days, there was no Palestinian fire at this time, and this is all in occupied territories. In the next couple of days, Israel used U.S. helicopters. Israel produces no helicopters. Uses U.S. helicopters to attack civilian complexes, killing about a dozen people and wounding several dozen. Clinton reacted to that on October 3rd by making the biggest deal in a decade to send Israel new military helicopters.
Wow, that sounds so different. That sounds so different than That sounds so strangely similar, doesn't it, to Joe Biden? Joe Biden in 2021, dude. That's wild. This has always been the American position. It doesn't matter if you have Republicans. It doesn't matter if you have Democrats. It is always the American position, okay? Literally. Oh, fuck, you're murdering Palestinians? Oh, shit, here, let's give you some more weapons, dude.
Which had just been used for the purpose I described, and of course would continue to be. The U.S. press cooperated with that by refusing to publish the story. To this day, they have not published the fact. It continued. When Bush came in, one of his first acts was to send Israel a new shipment of the most advanced military helicopters in the arsenal. That continues right up to a couple of weeks ago with new shipments. You take a look at the reports from, say, Jenin by British correspondents like Peter Beaumont in the London Observer. He says the worst atrocity there was the Apache helicopters buzzing around, destroying and demolishing everything. Yeah, this is enhancing terror. And we may easily continue. We can take, also, let me continue. On December 15th, 14th, the Security Council.
I mean, Noam Chomsky doesn't get a lot of play on American media. Like, for a very long time, Noam Chomsky has not appeared on any, like, prominent news networks. Well, now he's like 7 million years old, so I don't even know if he would want to or could, but
tried to pass a resolution calling for what everyone recognizes to be the obvious means for reducing terror, namely sending international monitors. That's a way of reducing terror. This happened to be in the middle of a...
Even then, this is the CBC, so it's the Canadian news, for the record.
...quiet period, which lasted for about 3 weeks. The U.S. vetoed it. 10 days before that, there was a meeting at Geneva of the high contracting parties of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which has unanimously held for 35 years that it applies to Israel. The meeting condemned the Israeli settlements as illegal, condemned a list of atrocities, willful destruction of property, murder, trials, torture, and so on and so forth.
Right, okay.
What happened to that meeting? Oh, I'll tell you what happened to that meeting. The U.S. boycotted it. Therefore, the media refused to publish it. Therefore, no one here knows that the United States once again enhanced terror by refusing to recognize the applicability of conventions which make virtually everything the United States and the Israel are doing there a grave breach of the Geneva Conventions, which means a war crime. Just a minute. These conventions were established in 1949 in order to criminalize the atrocities of the Nazis in occupied territory. They are customary international law. The United States is obligated, as a high contracting party, to prosecute violations of those conventions. That means to prosecute its own leadership for the last 25 years.
Please tell your U.S. viewers to call their reps about 1, blocking the Israel arms deal, 2, supporting the Palestinian Children and Families Act, H.R. 2590. Yeah, the journalist there simply failed their frame check, boys. I'm 14 hours post-COVID shot 2. What do you think of my new tat? Speaking of Bill and Melinda Gates, is Noam Chomsky Jewish? Yes. Bill Gates is under fire, potentially, for allegedly having an affair 20 years ago with a Microsoft employee or something. Have you guys heard of this? Have you guys heard of this, boys? speaking of Epstein's friends, dude, Bill Gates, friend to Epstein. Bill Gates thought Jeffrey Epstein was his ticket to a Nobel Prize, ex-staffer says. The prize is what Bill wants more than anything else in the world. One former Gates Foundation employee said, man, I thought these billionaires were smart, dude. How the fuck? How are you going to sit here and justify and lie about a meritocracy? Okay? Like, as though there is a real meritocracy and like billionaires just simply deserve it because they worked hard and smart. And yet, all of these fucking billionaires were just homies with a pedophile, dude. Either they were evil as fuck and they themselves engaged in this sort of shit, or they're just fucking idiots. You can't, like, or both, maybe both. I don't know. But, like, there is no world in which you're brilliant, smart, and totally deserving of your wealth, and then you meet with Jeffrey Epstein without recognizing that, like, he is a pedophile at that point. You know what I mean? Or an international sex criminal at that point. It's crazy. Bill Gates enjoyed holding court at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan mansion, allegedly seeking refuge from his marriage and talking with the sex offender's circle of high-profile dinner guests about philanthropy and other worldly topics. But the Microsoft mogul may have been angling for another perk by networking with Epstein. Gates hoped the well-connected pervert could help him secure the Nobel Peace Prize, one former Gates Foundation told the Daily Beast. This person said members of the foundation's communications team were alerted to Gates' relationship with Epstein and were told it was a maneuver to try to get himself a Nobel Prize. They said the tech mogul had even kept some employees on call on prize day in years past just in case he was awarded the distinction. He thought that Jeffrey would be able to help him. He knew he would know the right people or some kind of way to massage things. Oh, God. Poor choice of words there from the former Gates Foundation employee so he could get the Nobel Peace Prize. Jeffrey Epstein gave Bill Gates advice on how to end toxic marriages, sources say. Bachelor sex offender Jeffrey Epstein gave Bill Gates advice on ending his marriage with Melinda after the Microsoft co-founder complained about her during a series of meetings at the money manager's mansion, according to two people familiar with the situation. Going to Jeffrey's was a respite from his marriage. It was a way of getting away from Melinda. Bro, god damn it, dude. This is fucked up, dude. This is so insane. Okay. Oh, no. Dude, hey, listen. The Bill and Melinda Gates microchip is strong in me, boys. It's fucking strong. It's coursing through my veins. It's telling me, look away from this story. Stop criticizing Bill Gates, or do you need another dose? I'm telling you, boys. Something in my bloodstream is saying, don't do this. Long before divorce, Bill Gates had a reputation for questionable behavior. Melinda French Gates voiced concerns about her husband's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and a harassment claim against his money manager. He also had an affair with an employee. So the affair with the employee, Microsoft says that none of this had anything to do, or sorry, Bill Gates' PR team is saying that none of this has anything to do with the Bill and Melinda Gates relationship ending. NBC
the company that made
Oh, here, let's watch some video footage of this.
Bill
This is a little
Gates,
bit better.
a billionaire, Microsoft, confirms it conducted a thorough investigation after an employee raised a concern in 2019, saying Bill Gates sought an intimate relationship with her in 2000. The Wall Street Journal reports Microsoft...
That's honestly crazy. Like, what happens if Bill Gates wants to fuck you? Like, You know how we talk about the power dynamic in the workplace and how shitty that is, which is why you shouldn't fuck your employees, obviously. Like, or like, this is Bill Gates, dude. Like, he's not just your boss. He's not just your boss's boss. He's not just your boss's 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 boss. He's like a demigod. Like, the reality is, billionaires functionally are the same as monarchs. The only difference is, in a theocratic monarchy, the principle was, or the entire system was structured around God giving the power to the royal family, whereas under a capitalist organization of the economy, the billionaire is given all of this power, or legitimized. The billionaire's power is legitimized and justified through meritocracy. So, like, he's basically, like, what do you do? What are you gonna do if he's like wants to fuck you? Like, it's just crazy. I'm straight and I fuck Bill Gates any day of the week for that sweet payout. No, the fuck you wouldn't, dude. Cause like, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'd be fucking terrified. I would straight up be terrified. You guys keep saying like, oh no, I do it, bro. It's like classic fucking bro talk. But the reality is, if you're a fucking adult and you don't want to fuck Bill Gates and Bill Gates wants to fuck you, like, you're probably gonna end up having to fuck Bill Gates. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand the scary part of that? The amount of courage it takes to be able to come out and be like, yo, Bill Gates is trying to fuck me, and it's kind of awkward. Like, to file a workplace harassment claim against Bill fucking Gates. Are you kidding me, dude? Like, that's insane. I don't know how to describe it to you. It's like the amount of power that you have against someone like Bill Gates, especially within the corporate framework, is literally like a child against not an adult, but like literally an adult with a gun. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, this person is infinite times more powerful than you. Hard to describe. I am having a... I'm having a hard time describing it. It's like saying no to Homelander for sex. Yeah, you're gonna get fucking zapped.
Microsoft's board of directors decided Gates needed to step down from the board. Emily Glazer helped break the story.
For the record, people who are saying S-tier sugar daddy, yes, but that's consensual. Okay? We're not talking about like, would you consensually fuck Bill Gates? Many of you, especially for the money and power, would probably do it. That's entirely separate than someone who doesn't want to do it, who's in the workplace and doesn't have any other option. Okay? Do you not get it? Consent is the key here. Okay? Yeah, a lot of you would throw it back for Bill Gates. I got it. Okay? But that's the difference between you and a person who doesn't want to throw it back for Bill Gates, but has to now because it's fucking Bill Gates.
It became clear to them that this romantic relationship was inappropriate.
Months later, Bill Gates announced he would step down to dedicate more time to philanthropic priorities. A spokeswoman for Bill Gates says there was an affair almost 20 years ago which ended amicably. Bill's decision to transition off the board was in no way related to this matter.
I also see the other side of it to a degree, too. It's like, my man, just like, how are you going to fuck someone if you're Bill Gates? You know what I mean? Like, literally every single person that you are going to have sex with is going to be like, oh my God, I'm fucking Bill Gates. You know what I mean? So I get the other side of it as well. He's in a different tax bracket. Motherfucker, it's not the... First of all, no. His tax bracket encompasses a lot of people. Okay? Well, not the effective tax rate, but like the technical tax bracket that he's in encompasses a bunch of Americans, okay? It's not there's a lot more people there than you would think. Most Twitch streamers are in the same tax bracket. We are not in the same world as Bill fucking Gates. We're not talking about the effective tax rate. He's in the no tax bracket. So Melinda didn't think that. Okay, but that's way before. That's way before all this shit popped off. Didn't Melinda literally marry Bill Gates? Not when he was caked up. Yeah. Yeah, she's like, Melinda is a OG. I've watched you for almost 9 months, but take on billionaires is bad and harmful in the capitalism's future. Seeing as you are a billionaire yourself, you should know that working hard is important and everyone can become a billionaire, unlike beating the nameless king, which you can't do. Yeah. Wait, Melinda was an employee too? What the fuck? Nah, he was cake. She was an employee? Oh my God. I did not know this. I did not know this. But he wasn't cake like this. This is a good billionaire, by the way. There's fucking doesn't exist, okay? I've been saying this for a long time. This is just the fucking... This is the tippy top of the iceberg, motherfucker. This is nothing. Like, people talk about how, like, Bill Gates wants to, I don't know, eat, like, circumcised foreskin or some shit. Or that he's devil spawn. And that stuff is ridiculous, obviously. But, like, billionaires don't operate in the same fucking wavelength that we do. They literally just... They have meetings with whoever the fuck they want. And they get shit done in whatever way they want to, and it's way more innocent the way they are capable of changing the fucking world. Like innocuous, is that a better word? I feel it's innocent's not the good word for this. It's just nah. He was just the richest man in America when they married. Oh, ew, dude. Yeah, he was fucking. Yeah, he was a broke boy, dude. Inconspicuous, not in a... Anyway, listen. Banal is the word. Banal is a good one, too.
Glazer says the female employee wanted Melinda Gates to see her complaint.
The female employee really wanted Melinda Gates to read this letter. And we don't know if Melinda Gates read the letter.
We are still unequal, men and women.
As Melinda Gates was speaking out about women in the workplace, Bill Gates had developed a reputation for questionable conduct in work-related settings, according to the New York Times. Bill Gates' spokesperson disputes that, calling the rumors and speculation surrounding the Gates' divorce increasingly absurd. Kate Snow, NBC News.
Is it possible to admire? Gates became the richest man in USA, $9.35 billion in 1994. Man, thank God he, focused his efforts on doing good since then, in which he has increased his wealth tenfold. Bill Gates stay horny a lot. Well, we now know he wasn't Microsoft. At least he was micro hard. You know what I mean? It's kind of wild because, like, when you're Bill Gates and you're getting a 50-50 split with your wife, Melinda Gates, like, you automatically created another, like, mega billionaire, right? And that mega billionaire has a fucking PR team. Like, maybe it's not as powerful as the Bill Gates PR team, but goddamn, like, Melinda Gates is... It seems like she's fighting back, okay? Because, like, usually, I don't think you would get this kind of coverage. Like, you didn't get this kind of coverage after Jeff Bezos. You saw... We talked about his dick for a little bit. It's kind of wild. Speaking of Jeff Bezos, though, one thing I have to do here, because it's the top of the hour, is tell you that it's time for an ad break. And if you'd like to no longer see said ads, you can subscribe. With the Twitch Prime, you can subscribe for free. It's like taking money from Jeff Bezos and giving it to me. You know what I'm saying? Here's the fucking ad break now, boys. I have ad block, motherfucker. Suck my entire dick. Why is this a contentious relationship? Like, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, use your ad block, idiot. I tell you to do so. Why would you act like, oh, dude, you're so fucked now. You're so fucked now, dude. I'm using an ad block. Oh, no, you showed me, brother. Fuck.
Who breached the Capitol on January 6th are being abused, some even being held for 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. The people who breached the Capitol on January 6th are being abused, some rise in opposition to the commission to study the events of January 6th, as well as spending $2 billion in security supplemental. The question that comes to mind is this: what about all the riots that happened during the summer of 2020 after the death of George?
Hit the whataboutism button, boys. Let's go.
Floyd. I rise in opposition to the commission to study the events of January 6th.
She's dressed for Applebee's. She do be looking like she's going to Applebee's and yelling at a waitress later.
We should have a commission to study the violent BLM and Antifa mobs that have plagued American cities this past summer, and that's for the American. We should have a commission.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel stresses solidarity with Israel and calls with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a death toll from the Israeli strikes and besieged Gaza tops 200. Yeah. What Israel needs right now, more than anything, is solidarity, I think. And further justification from Western world leaders as it enacts untold amounts of cruelty. Their occupation and their bombing campaigns continue. You know, that's like, it's got that same energy as like, it's got the same energy as the Israeli account. I think there's the IDF Twitter account that was saying like, thank you for keeping us in your hearts and prayers. Like, you know, we're going through a really tough time right now, and it's wonderful that, you know, you guys are keeping us in your thoughts and prayers right now. Thank you. Anyway, here, I gotta pee.
Even COVID-19 sector, they have been, now they are used to receive more injuries from the latest escalation. The Minister of Health also said that one of their labs used for COVID-19 tests is completely damaged, and they had to stop now testing for COVID-19. Also, the waves of people that had to leave or evacuated their homes across the borderline.
We are ready to lend support if the parties seek a ceasefire. We'll continue to conduct intensive diplomacy.
Yeah. If the parties, thank you, Themasius. This is literally what I was looking for. Earlier today, so Anthony Blinken is in Copenhagen, okay, and he's doing some climate change shit. And of course, they are asking him about Israel-Palestine, and he says, "We will seek a ceasefire if both parties are willing to do one." If being the important operative word there. Specifically because Israel does not want a ceasefire. They just want to keep bombing, you know, until there is a relentless silence. This is not my words. These are the words of Benny Gantz, the supposedly tolerant, more liberal version of Netanyahu. Guess not so liberal and not so tolerant after all. Except we already knew that. I talked about how he fucking literally highlighted his war crimes when he was running. So, you know.
To bring this current cycle of violence to an end. Then we will immediately resume the vital work of making real the vision of Israel and a Palestinian state existing peacefully, side by side, with people from all communities able to live in dignity.
Secretary of State Blinken in Denmark yesterday discussing the U.S.'s involvement in the ongoing conflict between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. In a few minutes, we're going to be speaking with the political coordinator for Mission of the State of Palestine to the United States. But first, joining us now is former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer. Also with us for this discussion, we have Pentagon correspondent for the New York Times, Helene Cooper, and President of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass, and NBC's Casey Hunt is back with us as well. Joe?
Mr. Ambassador, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for being with us today. You just heard Anthony Blinken, America's Secretary of State, saying the United States supports a ceasefire. Does Israel support a ceasefire this morning?
Not just yet. What happened, as you know, about a week ago is Hamas launched this.
Not just yet, boys. Come on. It's coming. It's just not just yet. You know, we're just, hey, I'm sorry. Israel be like, I'm going through emotional labor right now. I need to adjust and work through the trauma. So I'm going to need some time for myself, okay? As I keep bombing Gaza. You know, I just need a little bit of time for myself. We've only killed 200 people and destroyed like 11 incredibly important Gazan parts of Gazan civilian infrastructure. So we're gonna need to keep continuing on the bloodlust a little bit more, just a little, dude. I think everyone is being really fucking annoying and not letting Israel do a little bit more fascism, dude. It's fucked up. Only 61 children and 35 women is the sentiment here. Great. Good
this
stuff.
Attack against us. When somebody comes over to you and...
Oh, yeah, they did. They destroyed a library today. I forgot to mention that part. They destroyed a library today. A couple days back, they destroyed a refugee encampment. Completely wiped out a fucking family.
Clubs you and then says we'd like that ceasefire. You don't just listen.
Ethan Capethon. Hi, new Andy here. Is there any way to debate Hassan? I believe he is indoctrinating his viewers against Israel with propaganda. Thank you for the 1,000 bits, Ethan. No.
Listen to them and accept this.
I mean, dude, honestly, here's what you can do. If you don't like what I'm saying, one thing you can do is turn off the stream and then literally go watch MSNBC on your own or virtually any other American mainstream media outlet. I can't remember if this was Michael Brooks or not, the late and great Michael Brooks or not, who said it's easier to criticize Israel and Zionism on Israeli television than it is on American television. So you can literally go and watch any fucking American news broadcaster, from CBS's Face the Nation with Bibi Netanyahu directly doing the propaganda on his own, all the way to The View and virtually any other outlet. There are no outlets out there that offer continuous coverage to the Palestinian plight. So, you know, I'm sure you can find a multitude of different American broadcasters that will tell you that, no, actually, it's fine that Israel blew up a library. Okay? And that, I promise, there was Hamas there, bro. Just take our word for it, bro. It doesn't matter, bro. We might have lied to the American government, or at least lied to the media about how we told the American government there was actually Hamas inside the Associated Press building, bro. But it doesn't fucking matter anyway, bro. Come on, just believe us.
Ceasefire. The Israeli people want to make sure that this ceasefire will be a long-term pause in hostilities. We've had 4 rounds of violence with Hamas in 2008 and 2009, in 2012, in 2014, and now in 2021. And we've had many salvos of rockets fired at us in between intermittently during those periods. You've had 4 major conflagrations there. And what the people of Israel want is they want their government to exact such a high price from Hamas that Hamas regrets having started this in the first place, but even more important, will not.
How many innocent civilians is a good enough fucking is a good enough price though? Like, $130 Hamas militants were killed in the airstrikes. It's collateral damage and an exemption under international law. That's a lie. 130 Hamas militants weren't killed. I think the number is literally 15. And secondly, it's not an exemption under international law. You just made that up. Also, finally, even if it was an exemption under international law, like, dude, okay, I just gotta say, there's so much wrong with that take. It's not an exemption. Even if it was, it's still horrific. Like, you're still, and even in your lies, even in your fucking lies, you were like, oh, dude, 130 Hamas soldiers were killed in the 200 fucking people that were killed. Like you couldn't lie to improve your condition and just be like, everyone who wasn't a child was Hamas. Fuck it, actually, all the other children were also Hamas too. Like, couldn't you just lie a little bit better? That's so weird. If you're gonna lie, just like, you know, fucking improve your numbers. This is like when IDF releases numbers of how many Palestinians they've killed, and it's still like half of them are literally in the IDF numbers. Half the casualties are literally fucking civilians. Like, they just report it. And it's like, if you're gonna fucking lie, why don't you, I don't know, why don't you just like make it seem like everyone you murdered is Hamas?
Not engage in this type of violence for a very long time in the future. I don't know if we've reached that point where Hamas is deterred. Time will tell.
Well, but Ron, as you know, with all due respect, Hamas has only been strengthened through this process, and you're not going to be able to degrade Hamas's capability enough to stop future attacks, to stop future funding from outside sources. So what's the end game here? Is Israel goes after Hamas? Is Israel attacks areas throughout Gaza? More young children, more women are pulled from the rubble for the world to see. What's the end game? And
bro, I love when Morning Joe's point of view isn't that like kids are fucking dying. It's that kids dying look bad for Israel, dude. That's insane. That is literally, you have a bad morning, okay, Joe? How about you have a fucking, this is not a good morning. This is a bad morning for you, Joe. My lord, dude. Motherfucker be like, what about the optics of murdering babies? It's making us look bad, and it's making it harder for us to defend Israel. Sorry, Sweaty. The optics of it is not working out. That's crazy.
Is that high cost worth it for Israel?
Also, I love when motherfuckers bring up international law when like Israel's current occupation is literally against international law. Not that anyone gives a shit about international law. Let's be real. International law is merely a suggestion for Western nations, and usually just utilized to justify their own versions of genocide against other fucking groups, like developing nations that are, you know, violating international law. So, like, it's never been a fucking real thing. But even in theory, even if it was a real thing that Western nations abided by, like, Israel is not abiding by international law. Its existence currently, and the way it stands, is not abiding by international law.
So it's very important to understand what Hamas is. Hamas is not only a terror organization recognized as such throughout the world, it's a genocidal terror organization. Its charter calls for the murder of Jews worldwide. This is an
See, the difference is, in Israel, we don't call for the genocide of all Palestinians. We just do it, and then we say they're meat shields for Hamas. So that's the big difference here. So again, if you make the optics argument, like Hamas simply should just start saying that you know, they're bombing not indiscriminately, but they're bombing IDF sites. Like dudes make this argument as though it would be an understandable argument for Hamas to make. And by the way, as Noam Chomsky adequately put earlier, it is an argument that Hamas could make that would still be more reasonable than the argument that Israel is making, because Israel is still the occupying force. It would still be unconscionable and unacceptable to throw bombs, to blow up Israeli citizens. Unacceptable, obviously. Okay? It's completely fucked up. Having said that, however, like, so are you going to abide by this and stand by your principles when Hamas, I guess, declares it that they're just fighting the IDF military forces? Sorry, the Israeli children were meat shields? Like, no, of course not.
Organization that celebrated after 9/11 when thousands of Americans were murdered. This is an organization that mourned. Wait, mourned.
He said, Ron, Mr. Ambassador, shit, dude. Yo, guys, Hamas not only celebrated after 9/11, but also I heard they don't like cats or dogs. They hate puppies, dude. It's like, why are you trying to pile on when the question is not about like whether Hamas is bad or not? Everyone universally agrees Hamas bad, okay? Shut the fuck up. Like, just keeping on, just saying Hamas bad over and over again is not going to change the reality that, like, you're still murdering innocent Palestinian civilians, okay? He's like, well, here are all the reasons why Hamas bad. Okay, but we're talking about your dealing of the situation. Notice how when they interview people in Israel, they say kill all Arabs, not kill Hamas. Not everyone in Israel feels that way, but like a lot of people are fucking, yes, a lot of people are totally fucking blinded to any sort of recognition of the humanity of Palestinians, like straight up.
Mr. Ambassador, I've already said that this morning. We understand that.
But you can't make peace with a terror organization.
Your actions, of course not.
Again, just slap a beard on this motherfucker and like, I don't know, put the fucking Hamas flag behind him. And literally, there you have it. You have the Hamas point of view. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. They are terrorizing us. Therefore, we have to fight back. It is the most honorable thing to do, is to fight back and take up arms against an oppressor that keeps killing our children. Like, that's literally just, you know, just slap on that argument for Hamas, and there you go. And you would never accept that. You'd be like, that's fucking insane. That's an insane argument. And even that argument from the Palestinian side is significantly more justifiable because, again, they are the victims in this asymmetrical massacre.
But do you understand, Mr. Ambassador, Israel's actions over the past...
See, whenever people say Hamas not targeting IDF, all right, give them weapons that can then. How about that? Is that what you're saying? So you'd be fine if they had the capabilities? So you're saying you would be fine if they had the capabilities of targeting the targeting IDF? Is that what you're saying? It seems like it. I don't know. It honestly, genuinely feels like you're saying we gotta give Hamas better weapons so they too can correctly target IDF bases and IDF soldiers. And say, well, we're just targeting the IDF when they blow up Israeli buildings. Would you be fine if Hamas had the same kind of weapons and the Iron Dome that Israel has, okay, over the Gaza territory, the world's largest open-air prison, and they started fucking bombing Israeli buildings with civilians in them? I don't think you would. I don't think anyone would. Dude, stop comparing a militia to a military. It's not remotely even a comparison. Obviously, it's not. That's why I constantly talk about the asymmetry of power. Okay? Obviously, the IDF won't fire rockets from civilian buildings. Why are you taking the... Wait, what? Are you fucking stupid? Wait, hold on. Wait, so you believe hook, line, and sinker that, like, Hamas is firing rockets from civilian buildings and that's why those buildings need to come down? Is that what you're saying? So you're taking the IDF propaganda. So what you're telling me is that you will believe Hamas when they say, sorry, we had to blow up this fucking school, this Israeli school, because Israel was firing rockets from it. So that's what you're saying. Since, you know, you're so willing and able to, you're so... No, dude, hold up. Like, for example, the media building that got demolished. The media building that got demolished. What's up? Were they firing rockets from the media building? I had no idea. I cannot believe the Associated Press was working alongside Hamas to fucking hide the truth that they were lobbing rockets from that building. Maybe he was being sarcastic. Maybe. They're clearly using excuses to blow up buildings that shouldn't be. I agree with you there. Oh, okay. So if Hamas did it, though, it would be different. Okay, got it.
Last week have only strengthened Hamas. You have
I
now
disagree.
made Hamas.
Of course, Hamas has an option to attack the IDF. They don't have to fire rockets many kilometers away into Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Of course, the IDF has the option to retaliate. They don't have to fire rockets into Gaza, the world's largest open-air prison. But they don't do that, do they? They still bomb important pieces of infrastructure, which Palestinians have no way of reconstructing, for the record, because Israel also controls concrete coming into the Gaza Strip and literally all building materials that go into the Gaza Strip, which they currently have sovereignty over. Is that good? Okay.
It's the
I disagree.
only Palestinian authority in Gaza that the Palestinian people are going to look to now.
I disagree. And we have to...
Like, I would go so far as to say it's additionally unjustifiable that Israel has all of these mighty weapons, okay? Like, they have all of these incredible weapons that they fucking tout all the time. Like, look at how fucking strong and guided our missiles are. And they still keep killing children. So at some point, you got to ask yourself, like, are the weapons not that good? Are they lying about that? Or are they doing it deliberately? They are doing it deliberately, okay? They're doing it to send a message.
Grade their capabilities, and we have. We've taken out about 160 terrorists. We've taken about 80 to 90% of their arms manufacturing capability. We took out one of their most important weapons of war, which is this subterranean tunnel network that they use to move fighters and missiles and all sorts of supplies underneath Gaza, basically a subterranean city. So their capabilities have been degraded. But we're dealing with a terror organization that doesn't want to make peace with Israel. Is not interested in it yesterday. They're not interested in today, and they won't be interested in it tomorrow. And we have to do what we have to do in order to defend our civilians. Look
at this. This is like literally the aftermath of... Man, it seems like those missiles aren't too guided, dude. Or they're really, really brutal. Wait, isn't he an American? Why is he giving us a debriefing on the IDF? He's the ambassador. He's a former ambassador.
What would happen?